The relationship line, realist versus idealist. This dimension really describes a woman's relationship and general strategy for balancing her dating and romantic goals against all the other aspects of her life. The terms realist and idealist really describe how they view their future life with their partner. And out of the three different dimensions, this is actually the least likely to change, and tends to stay pretty constant throughout a woman's life. And the reason why is because it's an impression that's formed as she's a child growing up. All right. Again, the realist idealist dimension, the relationship timeline is. It's the one that deals with the conflict between her inner biological drive to be a mother and take care of her family, and the fast-paced modern society that pushes her to work on her career. Again, her biological drive urges her to focus all of her energy on raising a family, but society, especially modern-day schooling, urges her to work on her career. The realist idealist dimension is less of a coping strategy, but more describes which drive she's going to favor. Of course, every woman will have some component of each, but there will always be one that she favors and gives priority to in the end. All women have a fear of not finding a great guy to be with who's going to provide for her, take care of her and her family, but realists feel that fear the most, and therefore strive to be self-sufficient and independent. All right, so let's talk about the realist and break it down here. The realist is a woman who, in a sense, is realistic. That yes, it's possible, especially with today's divorce rates, that she will end up not having a guy that's going to provide for her properly. So she is the type of woman that is going to focus on her studies, have very ambitious career goals. She'll often be more logical in her thinking, and I've actually met some realists who have been incredibly sharp in business. I actually dated a girl that was, she owned her own business, and she was just on top of everything. And even when she interacted with her employees, she had so much power and control over them. It was unbelievable. It was almost like masculine in a sense. It actually could be quite a turnoff in some ways, because I tend to prefer the more feminine women. But some realists, in the extreme end, can be like that, be very powerful like that. Now, most realists, the way that they grew up, most of them were born with those same natural urges to become housewives. But usually what we found happen in our studies is that over the course of growing up and in their childhood, their male role models, they'd see males who were basically incapable of taking care of the wives or families. It could have been their father, uncles, husbands, one of their mother's friends. Either the men left completely, or they were just not suitable to be good supportive husbands. And then they would also see, on the other hand, they'd also see these women who have these amazing careers, who are independent and seem to be a nice positive reinforcement. Of course, the women always gave the outward expression of being happy, being independent and having these careers, whether they were or not. Usually they would project this happiness, and it seemed to be a nice counter to the negative effects of the incapable men that they were seeing as they grew up. So really, this dimension is all about their upbringing, and that's the reason why it's least likely to change. Of course, you have the timeline, which comes from her dating experiences. You have the deny, justify, which gets imprinted during the early adolescent period and the teenage years. And this one, realist idealist, is something that happens far sooner than that, when she could be 4 or 5 years old, just seeing things like that when she's very young, and just gets an impression of what she's going to have to do in life. Am I going to have to be independent and self-sustaining, or am I going to find a guy to that's going to be supportive for me? And oftentimes the realist will she'll be in a family circumstance where she has to step up and take care of the family. Sometimes it's because she's the oldest, say the father's not around, or he's just very busy with work and he's just not there a lot of times. Sometimes the oldest daughter will have to step up and kind of take care of the family and take almost like a parental role for the rest of the children. And the girl I mentioned that I was dating, back then I was actually in a situation where I was struggling financially, and she was a realist, and looking back, she was actually an NJR, and it turned out her business was very successful, and having this woman in my life was kind of a lifesaver at the time. She'd buy me nice new clothes that I couldn't afford, take me out to dinner, take me on vacations, and she even helped out with critical things I needed, like a stove, refrigerator, just stuff for my place. And that type of behavior, that's very supportive, strong behavior, is very typical when you get a woman who's both an investor and a realist. Other realists I've dated have all been very self-sufficient. They prefer to at least split the bill at dinner or pay for it. And for certain guys, that's really enjoyable. It all depends what you want. But in the back of her mind, with that self-sufficiency, she is always going to kind of have that belief that you may not be there for her one day. So she will, in a sense, always keep one foot outside the door. And if she's a tester, she's going to be even more likely to ease that feeling by having other guys in her life, not necessarily romantically, but she's going to be having like backups kind of in her mind at the very least. Another thing, realists sometimes they don't believe in the idea of marriage. Of course, many do, but if you do find a girl who's like doesn't want marriage at all and even says, I never want to get married, that's a sure sign that she's a realist. Like, that is like one of the most obvious signs that will tell you that she's definitely a realist. And it's not that they can't be in a functional, loving relationship. They definitely can. But it's that they realize what marriage really is. And they usually see it as nothing more than a legal agreement which binds two people and has very little to do with real love. The real mark of a realist is her self-sufficiency, which some guys might confuse with being masculine or cold, but it really isn't. It's merely because she has fears of being alone that are so great that she is resorting to that independence and that self-sufficiency. But deep down, she is still a woman, and using the right strategy, you can get complete devotion and have a very feminine and loving partner. All right, so let's recap. Number one, realists have a healthy fear of not finding a man to support them. Number two, realists prefer to focus on their goals and advancement of their careers. Number three, growing up, realists usually, we found, had weaker male figures in their life. Number four, realists are powerful and they can actually take care of you. They actually really enjoy it. Another mark of realists is that you'll see them taking care of and being supportive of other people in their life, not just their boyfriend, but other people like family members and friends. And then also, realists will sometimes have one foot out the door unless you prove to them that you're really going to be there for her. All right, so let's go on to idealists. An idealist is going to maintain her ideal image of having a happy husband, living in a house with a white picket fence and a couple of very happy kids. And this image is so strong that she is actually willing to overlook the possibility of it never coming true. Even when she's disappointed over and over again, she's still going to have that ideal image in her mind that she's going for. She disregards her fears. And of course, those fears are always going to be there, but they don't affect the way that she daydreams, and she prefers to relish in her fantasy of having that perfect family. In other words, her ability to visualize is much stronger than the reality that she faces every day. So what we actually found in our research and our interviews is that most idealists were brought up around very capable men who were happy in natural supportive roles. Many idealists came from families that stayed together. The parents never got divorced. Their dad was successful. Their mom was a great housewife. And maybe she had a job, maybe not, or she grew up meeting boys when she was very young who loved her and really took care of her naturally. So as a result, she would naturally be less ambitious about the future because she has a strong feeling that she would be taken care of by a guy. And dating idealist can be very satisfying, can be a very emotional experience for a man, and because she believes in that true love. And if you ask her about it, she can talk about it. She knows that love is a real thing, and she will gladly share her vision with you and talk about her ideal future and what she expects from her husband and everything like that. Idealists love to daydream. They often have a very vivid imagination, very powerful imagination that can actually drive them and drive their goals. And most of the idealist strategies rely on taking advantage of that imagination and filling it with the thoughts of the two of you being together, using things like the us frame, future pacing, talking about things in the future as if they're definitely going to happen, talking about what you would do with her, using role playing and strategies like that. Now, there is a drawback to the idealist, is that she will eventually pressure you to get married, especially if you've dated her for 2 years or more. And this is great for some guys, but if you're looking to be a player and date a lot of women, be careful with that, because you could end up breaking her heart. All right, so let's recap here. Number one, idealists most likely grew up around men who they saw as supportive and capable. Number two, idealists have a very powerful, vivid imagination in which they have an ideal image of them with their husband and kids. Number three, idealists will eventually be looking for marriage. And number four, idealists are very clear on their vision for the future. They already have it planned out.